Oh my goodness, this is getting to be a habit. Working so hard to the last second. And I got out here at 6 o'clock this morning. Oh my gosh. I mean, like, you just don't realize. I mean, to the last second. Oh, I just ran over here, got sat down, and clicked the button. I just hope it's working. It looks like we've already got chatters popping up there this morning from Cheshire, Maine, it looks like. C. Wilczek and HPB from Northern England. That's what it looks like. Now, I hope those are from this morning. It looks like it, yeah. And then Logan is there. Richard Ingram is there. Okay, well, looks like we're moving. 55 viewers already. Well, now that I can catch my breath for a second, gee whiz. You know, you'd think the stress would be doing the live show. The live show is the easy part. It's all the stuff behind the scenes, getting it ready. Oh my gosh, I got out here really early. I got out here at 6 o'clock. I thought, well, that's going to be plenty early to... Nope, it wasn't. Vertigo status. Well, the good news. 1 o'clock yesterday afternoon after I ate lunch and took a short nap. And then I went in and I did those exercises that I've talked about before on the channel where you lay back and you turn your head one way and you go to the other way. And if you do it right, it can fix it just like that. Well, I had previously done those exercises on this bout of vertigo and it didn't really work. But in this time at 1 o'clock yesterday afternoon, just kind of like a light switch, it didn't fix 100%, but it fixed about 90%. And with only 10% vertigo compared to 100% vertigo, I was pretty happy. So I'm still just a teeny tiny bit off, but not bad. But I was good enough yesterday that I went out and had some fun out in the back property. I'm going to tell you all about that. This is some pretty amazing stuff, at least from my perspective. It may not mean much to you guys. By the way, before we get started much, I was noticing in the comments from yesterday's video, from yesterday's vlog, the comments section, there's a lot of spamming going on. They're using my logo and they're saying they've got some kind of deal for you and all this stuff. And I know you've heard this on other channels, but trust me, it is total spam and just completely ignore it. If I get a hold of you, you'll know it's me. Trust me. It won't be like that. Spam. It's just ridiculous. You got to wonder what these people think they're getting away with. I don't know. It's just ridiculous. Craziness. Okay, so the vertigo's fixed. I've told you about the spamming. I've got a video for you here that I think you'll find interesting, especially those of you who do like history and like old, amateur archaeology type things. So take a look at this video. I think you'll like it. Well, my friends, it's windy out here, so you're going to hear a lot of wind noise. Sorry about that. But I'm standing here above the new pond that I built, and I'm up on the hillside a little bit, up in these weeds, just for bearing's sake. Down that way, 2/3 of a mile, that's where the shop is. Right over there in those tall woods over there is where I found the other old home place. Well, I got to really study in those plat maps some more, and sure enough, there was a home place right here. And I don't know where it is, but I'm starting to hit a lot of metal signals, so I know it had to be here. You can see there's the spring that feeds the pond, and these giant oak trees were probably here. Well, I'm almost positive they were here when that old house was here. These were probably in the front yard of the old house. And the old house probably sat a little bit higher up on this knoll, and they'd walk down the hill to the spring and get their water. I'm 99% sure there had to be a house here because of all the signals I'm finding. I'm just finding dozens and dozens and dozens of signals, and really hundreds at this point. And I haven't dug a single thing yet because I'm just trying to zero in on and get my bearings. But the plat map definitely shows there was a house here, and I'm sure the plat map is correct. Well, my friends, I've cut all the brush here, you can see, so now I have access to metal detected. I found a bunch of square nails and a bunch of shotgun shells and a lead seal. It's a very old site, and there's metal literally everywhere. But now I think I opened up a can of worms, because now my wife wants to build a log cabin up here and have it for glamping and, you know, have another third rental house. Wouldn't it be a beautiful view? And there's no neighbors. Be pretty quiet sleeping back here, that's for sure. Oh my gosh. You know, and believe it or not, I did all that after I fixed my vertigo yesterday. Yeah, that to me, that's my, you know, everybody put in the comments yesterday that I need to take some time off and time away. Well, that's kind of what I did yesterday afternoon. I said, I've done enough. I actually did work on this while I had the vertigo, and I got that all fixed up. I'll tell you all about that here in a minute too. That is, I didn't put that on my outline, so you'll have to remind me to tell you about that if I forget. Anyway, so I went out. So then later, after I cut all that brush, I used the brush hog that I built. You know, that's hydraulic powered on the front of my Bobcat. I made the brush hog out of an old brush hog, and I converted over to hydraulic power. And the reason I did that is because you can cut trees down that big around, and it just cuts them down. And the hydraulics, the cool thing about that is, instead of breaking something like a shear pin, like you would if you were metal to metal solid all the time, the hydraulics just stop, and it just stops. You know, so if you overload it, it doesn't break anything. That's really cool. So I was able to cut all those saplings and all that brush and all that junk and just mulch it up into nothing. And then that allowed me to do some metal detecting. And I did find some pretty cool stuff. And keep in mind, I only spent maybe 45 minutes just looking around, and the only thing I dug was the things I'm going to show you right here. And everything I dug, I've got right here to show you. It's kind of cool. And haven't got into it yet, so once I really spend some time back there, which will probably be this afternoon, because I'm excited about it, I really am. It's cool to find an old place like that, you know, that nobody knows about. Well, the first things, you know, like, let me try to say this. For those of you who are metal detectorists, you'll know that the bane of your existence is those darn pull tabs and those little tops off of the soda cans and things. You just find those everywhere. Well, the equivalent to that on an old home site are these things. What are they? Shotgun shells. Now these are special. I'm really liking what I found here. All three of these are the same. All three of them are the exact same. Found them in 3 different places there, you know, in that area. And these are all UMC company, and they all say New Club across the bottom, New Club. And according to, you know, I just quickly looked this up just before we went live, so I haven't had time to investigate. But according to what I found very quickly, those were made from 1892 to 1896. Pretty specific. So there you go. Pretty cool. Well over 100 years old. And so I found those first. Well, I didn't say, not necessarily first, but I found those. And then I found all this stuff. And these are square nails, and these are hand-forged square nails. There's no doubt about that. Then I found this round one, and I thought, uh-oh, that's not making me feel too good that this is as old. But it's not a nail. Look at it. It's a rivet. See the hollow there? That's a rivet. Now, that's an indication that it's very old also, because back in the old days, you know, back in the 1800s, they didn't have your regular nails and fasteners and screws and things to, like, say if you were making a buckboard wagon, you know, to fasten all the boards together, they didn't have all the handy fasteners we have today. So very often, wood was fastened with rivets. They might use a washer or another piece of metal on both sides of the boards, and then put this through the hole in the metal and through the boards, and then rivet it together. Rivets were very common back then. And then I found yet another shorter square piece of a square nail, very definitely a square nail. And then I found this piece here, which is just some sort of a lead seal, I believe. You know, I don't know the history on all that lead seal stuff, but I think they used lead seals. This has wire coming out at both ends of it, and I think they used it to like fasten sacks and things closed in the old days. I really don't know that for sure, but I kind of think that's what they used it for, was fastening things to keep them closed. But probably the coolest thing I found back there, and again, just in a few minutes' time, I haven't begun to search the area very well yet, and there are literally hundreds upon hundreds of signals. I mean, just every place you move the detector, beep, 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 everywhere you move it. So it's going to take a while to isolate it and figure it out. But I found this, and you're going, well, that doesn't look too cool, as it doesn't right now. And I didn't get the picture made that I wanted to show you for this. Doggone it. I do have a picture to compare this to, but I didn't get it made for this morning. I'm sorry. Maybe I'll put it in the next vlog. But this, I think, and this is just, I think, I don't know this for sure. We see the hole in the bottom of it there. I think this used to be, I think it's brass, first of all, or some kind of a, you know, some kind of a non-metallic. Well, I don't even know. I didn't test it for magnetism. Let me see. No, it's not magnetic. So it's some kind of a brass or something. It's not magnetic at all. Now the bottom down here, I think, is. That's magnetic. That's where it's got the threads. What I think this was you screw this down onto the harness. You know how, like, you have that collar that goes around the horse's neck or the mule's neck or even the ox neck? And then there's these, what they call hames, I believe, H-A, I'm not sure how you spell it, if it's H-A-I-M-E-S or H-A-I-N-E-S, I'm not really sure, hames or hanes. Anyway, these things that go around that harness, they're wooden, and they kind of keep the collar tightened up around the neck, or they keep it from expanding or whatever. And these decorative knobs were screwed on the top of those hames. Anyway, and they were usually brass, and they were usually shiny. Now, this has been in the ground a long time, you know, and but that's what I think it is. I'm not 100% sure of that, you know. But anyway, that place definitely has possibilities. Oh my gosh. And it's right above the bigger spring there, you know, like, and if I was guessing, I would say that house place has to be older than the one that's in the woods. And you say, well, why would you think that? Well, the reason I would think that is if you had first choice on building a home place, where would you build it? Would you build it by the spring that goes dry every once in a while, or would you build it by the spring that runs constantly? I build it by the spring that runs constantly, for sure, you know, the bigger spring. And so I would say this house was probably older than the one that's in the woods. And there's definitely less sign of it. You don't see hardly any indication on the ground that there was a house there. All right, I'm off of that. I know some of you don't care anything about that, but some of you do like history, and it is really cool and really interesting to me. Some of you did reply about my camera. I did try it with the Office Android phone also. It would not connect. So someone said you need an Android 7.0 or higher. I'll have to check that. I just found that note this morning too by reading your comments and stuff. So I'll look into that and see if I can figure it out. But right now, like I said, this thing is a $300 brick right now. Or I don't know how much I paid for it, to be truthful. I buy so much stuff, I can't keep it straight. Anyway, so that thing is kind of sitting on hold at the moment. Gil Lamb just gave me a super chat. Thank you very, very much, Gil. I really do appreciate that very much. Moving on to the next thing. You know, the last two shop talks, I played some of Mary Jane's songs, and I thought you might get a kick out of hearing Patty singing lead. This is the sister of Mary Jane. I did go to Mary Jane's wake, and you know, it was a sad time. You know, all funerals are sad, of course, but you know, it's tough to say goodbye to a good close friend like that. So here's here's Patty singing one of the favorite songs that the Morrill Sisters did. I hope you enjoy it. So long and goodbye to you.
You can send me pretty flowers, you can send me valentines, send me letters every day, but it won't pay. Dream of my desire, nothing else will do. It's goodbye and so long to you. You can hang around and love me, you can hang your head and cry, hang my picture on the wall, but I won't fall. Kiss me when you're dreaming, no good will it do. It's goodbye.
Yeah, I really love hearing her sing that. I especially love playing that live with them. They just have a good time on stage and stuff, and always did enjoy playing with the Morrill Sisters. Sadly, that probably won't be happening much anymore. Though Patty did set in and play in my band for a number of times over the years, playing fiddle and stuff. And she's always obviously very good at harmony singing. So just always enjoyed playing with them. It's such a sad thing. Scott Roberts says, you know, all of the Hames knobs that he's ever seen nailed on, you know, had a little, they actually had a little sleeve down here, and the nails were driven through there. And yeah, you're right. I agree with that 100%. I just can't think of anything else this could be. That's why I think it may be that way. I think it may have screwed on. Don't know that for sure, and then maybe it went to something else. But it is just a decorative piece, I think. I don't think it serves any purpose. Nothing that I can see. It's just been smashed, as you can see. It used to be totally round, I think. And the only thing is that it does have a threaded base there. So maybe it's not as old as some of the other ones. The one I took a picture of and was going to show you this morning, even though I didn't have time to get it put into the program. It was definitely shiny brass, and it was definitely nailed on too. So yeah, you're right. I think you're 100% right there, Scott Roberts. So anyway, just don't know what else it could be though. I have a note here that I meant to mention in the last couple of vlogs and I kept forgetting. So Tom from Michigan says he really loves the channel, all you do with the farm and the instruments, and I really make his day. He says, thanks so much. And so Tom, I say to you, thank you very much for the nice note. I really do appreciate it. We get dozens upon dozens upon dozens of those nice notes, and I only pick out one or two every once in a while to read. Sorry to the rest of you, because I just can't possibly read them all. All right, we're up to the questions portion now, and some of these questions are kind of tough again. Some of these things, I'm not going to try to blow any smoke. Some of the things I just don't have a good answer for. I might, if I saw it and had it right here, where I'd probably have some sense of what to do, but when you can't see them and you don't really know how bad it is and all the extra stuff about it, it's really hard to answer the questions. So Tim asks, he needs to replace some part of his binding on his banjo. He says it was celluloid binding, and should he replace it with the new modern stuff or what? Well, Tim, you got a tough job there. That's not an easy one. Anytime you're doing things that are cosmetic, that's harder than the structural stuff, in my opinion, by far. I mean like 2 to 1 harder. It's really much more difficult. So, because the looks, even though people say, I don't care what it looks like, I just want it to play good. Lots of people say that, but when you get right down to it, everybody cares about the looks. And, and the looks stand out like a sore thumb. So the truth of it, Tim, is I don't know what to advise you on that. I really don't, because I can't see it. But I can tell you for sure the new modern bindings don't match the old bindings at all, and at least not in my opinion. Maybe somebody in the comments would have a suggestion, but the truth is it's difficult to replace portions of binding and get them to match. It's very difficult. Mike asks, why not remove the bridge and the bridge plate at the same time? Now, I think he might be referring to that D28 that I fixed not too long ago for Leon, where I had to put a new bridge plate in it and a new bridge on it, and I had to reset the neck. And why didn't I just take them both off at the same time? Well, there's a really good reason for that, and that is that your spruce top is very soft. It's really soft. It's only 100,000th of an inch thick. That's less than an 1/8 inch thick across the entire top. So when you start prying on that, it breaks. It breaks like a toothpick. I mean, it breaks that easy. It really does. So if you don't have your bridge plate under there, when you're taking the bridge off, when you're prying there, it's going to crack that top. But that bridge plate makes it where you can take the bridge off and it won't crack it, because you got some backing there. So that's why I did his in 2 separate steps. I don't remember which one I did first, to be honest with you, without looking at the video, but I think I took the bridge plate out first, put a new bridge plate in it, then I think I took the bridge off, and I might have done it backwards. It doesn't matter. The point is you can only do one at a time unless you are maybe, if they were really, really loose, you could do both of them at the same time, probably. But if they're not both really, really loose, you're going to break your top. You're going to crack it. That's why you need to do them separately, and you need to fix one, get it fixed, then fix the other, get it fixed. I hope that makes sense. Chuck says he has a Japanese copy of a D35, and the way he's describing it, I would say he has a 0 fret. He wanted to know about removing that fret. He wants to lower the action. He was thinking about removing that fret and putting a new nut on it to lower the action. Well, you got a can of worms there, Chuck. You can't really do that, and the problem is that 0 fret is a 0 fret. In other words, that takes the place of the front edge of the nut. On most guitars that don't have that little short fret, the string ends at the nut, and then it goes back past the first fret all the way to the saddle. But when you have that 0 fret, that is now your nut, essentially, and you can't remove that. If you take that out, you've just lengthened your scale by a 1/4 inch, and all your frets are going to be wrong then. Now, the only way that I know that you can get rid of that 0 fret and make it work is you literally cut you pull the fret out and you cut your fretboard off right there. You move your nut up to that spot. Now, if you do that, you're going to have a scar on the other side of your nut. You can fix the scar with some decorative piece or trim or something, but that's the only way I know that you can do it. So I hope that makes sense to you. And for my money, if you're wanting to lower the action, you probably would be much easier to just put in a smaller fret there, you know, and it'll have to be slightly bigger than the rest of your frets if you want it to clear, probably. Or just file that fret down. You know, that's probably the easiest way, now that I think about it, is just file that fret down. Well, anyway, I hope that makes sense to you, Chuck. Alonzo says, he says I should upload my music to Spotify, and I don't really have anything against that. It's just that I kind of like control of everything, especially out in this world today. And so it's just, you know, because I can, I just did it on my own website, and it seems to work just fine. And I don't care if I sell my music, to be truthful. I'm not that great at playing music. I enjoy it, and I know some of you enjoy my music and like it and stuff, and at least that's your nice comments. So I appreciate that, but I'm not very good at it, and so I don't see any point in putting it on Spotify. I'll just leave it on my website. But thank you, Alonzo, for asking about that. Now, I don't know how to say this. HOXOH123 asks, why are frets straight and the saddle is at an angle? And that is a really good question. And here's what I believe to be the right answer. But I'm telling you, I'm putting this in quotes. Don't take this to the bank. I can't tell you for certain this is the reason. But the way I understand it is, it has to do with the gauge of your strings, and it has to do with the fact that the bass strings are thicker and bigger, and that's why the saddle is slightly offset. Now, you make a good point. Like, why shouldn't the frets be kind of, fanning back toward that? And some people have experimented with those kinds of things and put slanted frets on there and stuff. But the truth of the matter is, it seems to work just the way it's designed. And I can't sit here and tell you that I fully understand why it works, but it does seem to work. And, I just say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So that's the best answer I got for you. I'm sorry that it's not a great answer, but the truth of it is, I believe it's got more to do with the gauge of the string and the diameter of the string with that extra large serving wrapped around there. That's what I call it, serving. And the serving comes from the archer in me. When you wrap that string around your bowstring, that's called serving. So I always call the wrapping around a guitar string serving. So that's where that's coming from, if you're wanting to know why I call it serving. Anyway, that's the best answer I got, and I'm sorry if that's not good enough. Buddy Blues Belter, he wanted to know about making a wood guitar stand from scratch. I actually did make one, but mine was very complicated. I've seen some very simple designs that I think are pretty adequate too. There's one, if you get out on the internet, you find them. I don't have a good example. I'll just try to mimic what it is. But basically, you have two pieces of wood, and like you would cut out kind of like an L here, kind of like an L. And this is the back, and the bottom down here is where you set the bottom of your guitar, and then it comes back up a little bit to cradle the front of the guitar, and then you open this up like this, and I think there's some kind of a strap to keep it from opening too far, and then you can set your guitar in that cradle. I've seen those kinds of wooden stands out there. I don't profess to know that much about it. I've just seen those. So you might go out on the internet and look for that, because I'm sure there's some plans for those out there somewhere. Okay, moving on to the next thing. Dan's Tune, D-A-N-S-T-U-N-E. So Dan's Tune. I think he's doing something there with them, with those words. He said he wrote to me 2 years ago about getting his instrument repaired. How does he send it to me? Well, I'm sorry, Dan Stoon, but unfortunately, I'm not accepting them shipped in. If you don't come here, I'm just not accepting them. And I can't keep up with just people driving them in here. And so to allow them to be shipped in, forget it. And, people say, you should get help again. Well, I don't want help. That's the thing. You don't realize all the stuff that comes with the help. Trust me, this is not a reflection on Caleb. Caleb was an excellent employee. He was an excellent apprentice. Nothing to do with Caleb whatsoever that I'm about to say, okay? I mean, in fact, he's probably the exception to this rule. But the fact is that when you have people come in your shop, you have to be responsible for what they do too, And it's tough enough just being responsible for what I do when you're talking about a $10,000 instrument that I'm working on. You know what I'm saying? So it's really tough to bear that extra responsibility. And I don't like that extra stress. And Caleb was very good. I had no problem with that. But I just don't like the extra stress, knowing that I'm responsible for what he does as well. And in addition to that, you got insurance and you got all kinds of other problems. And, there's just hassles of having employees and things. And I'm old and I'm tired and I just don't want that extra hassle. So that's the reason I don't have help. Yeah, people are making comments. You need to get help again because you got so many instruments backed up. Yeah, I realize that. But I'm just going to handle them as I get to them. And I'd rather have that and that little bit of stress hanging over my head opposed to having an extra employee here with that stress. There's a lot more stress there than there really is about the 6 instruments sitting on the shelf. Okay. Tim asks about my video equipment and lighting, and I have covered this several times. In fact, I covered it in a very recent shop talk. But my video equipment and lighting is incredibly simple. I don't know if you can see this. Here's my lighting. It's just one of those circle lamps. That's all it is, just pointed right at me. And like this one right here. It's exactly like this except pointed at me, at my face. And that's what I use over my camera here on the workbench. And you can't really see that. But here's this camera here. It's just a Canon T7i, I think that's what they call them. Canon T7i. I don't know. I know it's got those numbers in it. It's just a regular Canon, it's kind of like an old 35 millimeter camera, except that it's DSLR. In other words, it's a digital SLR camera. And that's all I use. And I don't use any external microphones or anything. Now, that works great indoors. I can't say that that's going to work all that great. Excuse me. I can't say that's going to work all that great when you go outside. It does work outside. I've used it outside, but you will get wind noise and stuff, and you do have to be close enough to the camera. It can pick up your voice. I know I can get remote mics and all that stuff. You don't have to tell me. I actually had those and gave them away because I just don't use them enough. And anyway, that's all I do. So it's very, very simple. Now, the video editing software I use is Video Studio, and I use a fairly current version of that. I think I have 2022, but I'm not positive of that. Anyway, so it's just Video Studio is all I use for the editing. The camera that we're using today is a Logi, the live camera, in other words, is a Logi HD 1080p. HD 1080p. Logi, however you want to say that. Okay, and then the last thing, Oliver just asked for more history on the property, and as you saw in my video clip, that it is an old place. We have deeds on this farm back to the 1850s. In other words, there's an abstract, a big book, and it's got all the people that owned this. One of the coolest ones in there is just about the time of Jesse James when he was hitting. There is a James, forget his name now. I want to say Harry James, something like that. I don't know, something like that. It might have been Henry James, I don't know. Anyway, there was a James that owned this farm back then. So I was expecting in my cave to find loot in there from Jesse James. Because, you know, Jesse James was from Missouri, and there was a James about the time James, you know, Jesse James was doing his thing. It could have been a relative or something, and I haven't been able to track all that down and figure that out yet, but it would be cool to find out, you know, if they were somehow related. There's, I think, I have not seen evidence of Civil War activity here at all. But Arlington, which is literally, as the crow flies, less than a mile, probably right at a mile from here. It's catty-cornered across Highway 44 from here. And Arlington was at one time the very end of the railroad line during the Civil War. And so apparently a lot of troops came to this spot to catch the railroad and go off. And with all the springs in this valley that we have, it wouldn't surprise me that someone, that some of the troops were camped in this area, though I have not found any evidence of that at all. So I don't know. There's a lot of questions I see scrolling up, and we're ready to hit on that. Trying to think if there was any more history on the farm that I could mention. I'm still trying to piece it together right now. The only other history I have is that the Native Americans lived on that one spot. I've got evidence that they lived there for at least 8,000 years to about 1,000 years ago, and it could have been a bigger span than that. Okay, let's see. Boy, I'll scroll up here and see if I can find. Man, it looks like there's a lot of questions. Now the question is, can I read them? Gary Smythe says, how deep do you usually have to dig? And I guess you're talking about for these metal detecting things. I would say most of them are in the 4-inch range, that I'm finding, especially back there right now, about 4 inches. I would say 2 to 4 inches probably, and a little deeper than that sometimes. Sometimes they're 6, 8 inches deep, and but you don't typically go much deeper than about 8 inches. That's kind of like the range of most metal detectors. Though with the bigger coil and everything on that Equinox 800 that I have, it'll go pretty darn deep. It'll probably go a foot deep. But I've got the small coil on it right now because I'm trying to isolate the signals. When you have the big coil on your metal detector, you get all kinds of signals under one coil, and it's really hard to isolate them. So I put that little bitty coil on there. It's only 6 inches, and that really has helped. I really like the little coil. And then in addition, the little coil is very light. It's so easy to move around. So anyway, hope that answers the question. But it's really fun to do this. Crazy hard to dig, even back there because of all the roots from all those saplings and trees that I cut down. Oh my gosh, is it hard digging? Really hard to dig. Scott Roberts asks, all of the yeah, they were nailed. Okay, so I saw that one and talked about that already. He was talking about this knob again, about nailing them on. So I already did that one. Blair Turner. It also reminds me of the ball ornament on a headboard of a bed. That is a possibility. There's no doubt that it could be that. It could have gone on an iron bed. Wouldn't surprise me at all. In fact, maybe that's even more likely. Very good observation. Good guess. Because I've seen those too. I know what you're talking about. Newton Horn. Is that Bohorn by chance? The last name spelled the same. But anyway, Newton Horn says, do you think the piece is off a brass bed? Yeah, well, good question. Yeah, more people are saying about the brass bed, Billy Porterfield. Very good guess. I mean, in fact, it may be that. I thought just because it was so old that it was probably more to do with the horses and the stuff like that. But, they may have had the ability to have a brass bed. You know what I'm saying? I'm expecting that the people that live back here, this is just me talking because I don't know nothing about it. But I would say they were probably very poor. I mean like dirt poor. That's what I'm guessing. just because of, you got to understand, back in the 1800s, this would be like living in the frontier, man. I mean, like, even now people say, golly, you're so remote. How did you find this place? It seems like it's just a time capsule. You know what I mean? Even now. So can you imagine 100 years ago what it was like? Wow, I really can't. I think it would just be hard to picture. I mean, like if you wanted to go to town, when you lived here back in the 1800s, if you wanted to go to town, at least an all-day trip, if not an overnight trip. That's what I would say. And I mean all day, all day. Get up early in the morning and get home late in the evening, late at night. And that would probably be if everything went perfect. Okay, moving on. Chip wood. Since you burn wood for heat, do you deal with a lot of static electricity? If so, how? Yeah, Chip, I do. That's how. I kid you not. And I'm in it. You probably think, oh, he's just saying this. I really believe that I'm exceptionally conductive. I mean, I really believe that. No one else in the family seems to get shocked all the time. I get shocked. I can just look at something and get shocked. I am not, I know you think he exaggerates. I'm not exaggerating. I have seen blue flames shoot that far, and I'm not kidding. It's like, you gotta be kidding me. No, I'm not kidding. I seriously, so the static is huge for me. That's why I keep these things everywhere. I've got them everywhere. I'm not having too much trouble yet, but when the cold temperatures really get cold, oh my gosh, static like you would not believe. So good question, Chip. It's almost like you're psychic or something. Let's see. Someone asked a question here. I think I've seen questions, but they don't have question marks in front of them. Be sure to put question marks in front of your question, but I see one here from Edward. Let me read it. Hi, Jerry. Have you ever been asked to reduce the height of a guitar body to make it thinner? I'm thinking about a classical model. It is new Yamaha. If so, how much would you expect the cost to be? Well, Edward, no, I haven't been asked to do that, and typically, Edward, I don't work on classicals, so kind of got two strikes against you there on that one, but, I think I'd find a different guitar. I mean, honestly, I think I would. I think you'd be better off, and it would have to cost a lot of money. It's tons and tons of effort there, much more than you would ever think. There's a lot of work there. You're probably talking 12 to 15 hours work if everything went perfect, and at $100 a pop, $100 an hour, you're talking $1,200–1,500 just for the labor, let alone anything else. Clyde Lewis, when it gets colder weather, should you heat the gluing surfaces and glue? Also, do you recommend for keeping animals around the workshop? Not quite sure I understand those questions there, Clyde, but as far as the colder weather goes, my shop is totally heated, so it doesn't seem to affect anything. I don't do anything special for gluing in the colder weather, other than I just keep the shop heated, Do you recommend for keeping animals around the workshop? I don't know what he means there, but I typically don't let my dogs in the workshop. We've got two main dogs here on my farm, Tucker and Bella. Tucker is a great big dog, and he's really a great dog. He really is. He annoys me, to be truthful, because he's always into something. and he chewed up so many things as a pup. He chewed up the seat on my four-wheeler type deal, which was about a $500 seat, and chewed just one thing after another. So he's always been kind of a pain to me. He chewed up one of my remotes to one of my furnaces in my metal shop, and yeah, you just find stuff out in the yard where he's chewed them up. He's grown out of that now, so that's not so much of an issue. He's just a big friendly dog, really. I mean, he just lick you to death. You know, I won't have a mean dog. Bella, on the other hand, she's a little sweetheart dog, but a little bit nervousy. She's an Australian Shepherd type dog, and she was going to be put to death. She was going to be killed because the guy was moving and had no place to put her. And so we took her, and she instantly bonded with my wife, and my wife and her just everywhere they go, they're together. I mean, like, my wife can't go anywhere without that dog being there. Now, they're both outside dogs, and one of the reasons they need to be outside, well, I mean, you'd either have to keep them inside totally or let them outside totally on a farm like this, because they will get loaded in ticks, and yeah, we do spray, and we do dip them, and we do all the things we can do. But trust me, you'll have ticks in your house like crazy if you're letting your dogs in the house when you live out in a place like this. So they pretty much stay outside, and they're accustomed to it. And we do warm up the garage, and the garage is nice, and we leave one small door open where they can go in and out at night. And so they're well cared for, well taken care of. But I don't let them in the shop. And the primary reason is you never know what they might do. I mean, they might chew a hole in somebody's guitar or something, you know. That would not be a good idea, or knock one over or something. So I don't let them in the shop. Let me see here. Let me find where I was at. I don't know if I think it's scrolling me here. Okay. Buck Rogers says zero fret require the same measurements as the nut. It's possible the zero fret is high. The measurement is done at the first fret as per usual. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Buck, that's absolutely true. Yeah, see Will's check. Jerry, why do these Luthiers put their bridges at an angle and not straight? Does that make it more difficult to maintain or repair? I don't know, quite understand that question there. See Will's check. I think you're talking about the saddle inside the bridge is at an angle, I guess, because the bridges themselves are typically not at an angle. But it's all about intonation. The way your saddle is there is so that the strings note properly at all the frets. And, you know, some people will get on their high horse and say you can't, you know, intonate an acoustic guitar perfectly, or any guitar perfectly for that matter, because of the fretting and all that. And I guess I'd have to agree on a technicality there, but it's so close that you might as well call it perfect, because it's so very close. If you get everything set up correctly, you can make them note pretty darn close. And I've been able to do that time and time again. So I don't know. I'm not sure how to answer the question beyond that. Scott Roberts, come on, people, get the thumbs up going for this pitiful old man. He's not getting any younger. Well, thanks, Scott. That's one of them double-edged compliments there, or whatever you want to call that. Appreciate the support, though. Alan Aviation, have you ever used a bore scope camera for inspecting instruments? Yeah, I've got 2 of them, or 3 of them, actually, I think. And they're fine, but honestly, they're almost more hassle than they're worth. Because you got to get them connected up to a smartphone or something, and you know, I got a mirror. I can reach in there and I can see what I need to see with the mirror. And it's not as good for you guys, I will admit. It's kind of nice to put the camera inside there. And I agree, it makes a better video. But in terms of the actual practicality of the work, sticking a lighted mirror in there is much more practical. It really is. And there are times, there have been times where the camera was the thing. You know, you could see it better, and you could move it around at different angles. And so I have used the camera, and I still have, I think, for sure 2 of them, and I think I've got 3 of them in that cabinet right behind me. So I know all about those. Moving on to the next one, Blaine Cox. Any chance of using the farm to host music festivals? Well, Blaine, you're about 2 decades late on that one, or decade and most of another one late. From 99 through 2005, I had bluegrass festivals here. I would have maybe 40 or 50 campers out here, and we had 200 to 300 people on our best festival. But the truth of it is that I had to do pretty much everything and beg other people to help me, and nobody really wanted to do it in the family. They're just not into it, and so it was just too much, and I finally just gave it up. Newton Horn, is your friend Bo? It is your friend Bo. So Newton Horn is Bo. Well, I'm glad to know that, Bo. So thank you for tuning in this morning and for the questions. George French, maybe Harry James brought his big band up to the farm. Yeah, I was hoping that maybe I'd find something to tie in Jesse James to the farm. It's just wishful thinking. I'm sure there are more than one James in the world, But it was about the same time. It's like in the 1860s or somewhere in there. I can't remember the date that was on my abstract for the James name, but it was in the time frame. It may have been later than 1860s, 1870, 1880, somewhere in there. Let's see, moving on. Oh, don't forget about the Taylor guitar. Thank you. I told you I'd forget. Seriously, it's not easy to be me. It just isn't. Yeah, this Taylor guitar, this came in Wednesday. Now that was really when I was having my big bout with the vertigo, and it came in Wednesday, and it was a rust job for a friend of mine, Maureen Hall. And she said she couldn't send it back to Taylor because it would take way too long to get it back, because the last time she sent it to Taylor, it took her months and months to get the guitar back. And she does house concerts and all this. The bridge was incredibly loose. I mean, like really loose. I could stick a piece of paper almost to the pins here. Now, the tricky part of this guitar, and maybe you can see it in this camera, see those little, oops, it's backwards to me, sorry, but there's those three little deals right here that are for the pickup. Can you see them on the camera there? Maybe you can. Well, anyway, they're between the pins and the saddle. There's those 3 little deals, and they've got little like Allen screws in them. And I didn't have anything that fit it. I finally found something that undid them, and I got them out. I pushed the pickup down through because it is it's a pickup that mounts up on the bridge plate. Anyway, I got that out, and then I put some heat on here. I took the bridge off. You're going to see a video on this later. But anyway, I got the bridge off. The bridge came off really easy, actually. One of the few times that it just came off really easy. That D35 that I recently put the bridge on that we were talking about earlier, I had glued that on with Titebond. That one came off very easy. That's the myth. People keep saying, you can't take Titebond apart. Well, you're completely black and white, 100% wrong. You can take Titebond apart very easily. Yet it holds like iron. It doesn't turn loose until you put enough heat into it to take it apart. Then you can take it apart very easy. So I kind of think this may have been glued on with Titebond because it came off very easy compared to most. Anyway, I got it off. I scribed around the whole area and got rid of all that extra finish, because they always glue these things on top of finish, which I understand why they do it. It's a factory thing, But anyway, so I got it all down to bare wood, cleaned it all off, put it back on here, and clamped it up yesterday and got it fixed again during my vertigo thing. But I got it all done, and it's pretty good. I also leveled all the frets, recrowned all the frets for her, and all of the tuning keys were so loose they were about to fall off, and that's no kidding. They were crazy loose. I was amazed how loose they were. And anyway, I tightened all that up, got that all cleaned up too. Oh, the microphone's way over there. You guys are probably having a tough time hearing me today. I never even thought about it. I sell the morning paper, sir. My name is... I'm screwed up now. I sell the morning paper, sir. My name is Jimmy Brown. Everybody knows that I'm the newsboy of this town. You can hear me yelling, Morning Star, running along the street. I got no hat upon my head or shoes upon my feet. Never mind, sir, how I look, don't look at me and frown. I sell the morning paper, sir, my name is Jimmy Brown. My father died a drunkard, sir, and I don't remember the rest. Anyway, there you go. That's what you call total spontaneous. But anyway, it's a great little guitar. It's a Taylor, and she should be tickled. In fact, I called her yesterday because, she was like in a tizzy about getting this thing done for her next concert, see? So I called her yesterday, and I didn't tell her I had it done. I said, hey, Maureen, I said, what are you doing tomorrow around noon or so? I said, I got something cooking. And she says, well, I could probably be freed up around noon tomorrow. And I said, well, then come and get this darn guitar. She was so surprised that I had it fixed already. And I apologize if you haven't been able to hear me all morning because the microphone wasn't very close. I'm sorry. I tell you, sometimes I'd forget my head if it wasn't screwed on. And that's pretty much the truth. Thanks for reminding me about the Taylor guitar. Wendy Mailou, Maillous. What about the guitar on the work? Oh, you're asking me the same thing. So, see, I told you I'm a terrible reader. It takes me a while to read these things. Clyde Lewis, does the static affect your computers any? Yeah, that's a big thing that people always talk about. And I always worked on computers. And trust me, if anybody had static in their body, it was me. And I'd be touching computer components all the time and static and shocks and all the stuff all the time. I mean, like it wasn't like once in a while. It was all the time. I never had a problem, not one single time. So I'm sure it can happen, but I think it's more myth than reality. That's the truth. That's what I believe because I did break fix for 3 years, I think, for Southwestern Bell. So you can imagine how many computers I worked on. Tons of them. 4 or 5 a day, every day, and I never had a problem, not one single time. So there you go. And I never did use one of the grounding straps and all that junk. That just took too much time. I didn't have time for that. Okay, and if that offends all you guys that are computer experts, sorry, but I'm just telling you the truth. That's how it worked, and it's how I did it, and I never had a problem. Okay, Jim Page. Here in Florida, we have more than our share of snakes. I found your discussion on the copperheads at your pond interesting. Any other snake stories? Well, Jim, I had the 2 snakes, the 2 big copperheads at the pond, and boy, they were whoppers. I mean, these things were huge. We have one snake that we killed right after we first got here on the farm. I have mentioned before that this farm was just trashed. Trashed like I can't even put it in words. You think, oh, he's exaggerating. I'm not exaggerating. I'm telling you for sure. This place was so trashed it looked like the city dump. There were refrigerators, old stoves, old appliances everywhere, car parts, garbage, just old fences, everything, just a ton of stuff. The first thing I did once I bought the property was I bought a Bobcat. because I knew I couldn't clean this up by hand. And for 3 solid years, I came down here every single weekend for 3 years and pushed trash into piles and burned trash. And I hauled some of it off, you know. Had I known then what I know now about recycling as far as that steel goes and all that stuff, because I had other people come in and haul their metal off, I'd have done that myself and made a lot of money. I finally did wise up on that, and I thought, you know what? There's still a lot of copper wire around here. You're not even going to believe this. Again, you'll think I'm exaggerating. I gathered up all the copper wire that I could find on this farm. A lot of it was the old telegraph type wires, the big thick copper wires, you know, not quite as thick as your finger, but really thick wire. And coiled all that up and put it on a trailer, took it in. I got $1,300 for just the copper wire. Yeah, that's how much there was. So your question was about the snakes. Well, because of all that trash, the first several years we were here, each year we killed more than a dozen copperheads. Each year. They were thick on this place. You ain't never seen thick copperheads. I had never seen so many copperheads in my whole life. No matter where I've been in Missouri. And I've been a lot of places, trust me. And it ain't never been nothing like what we found here. So we kind of eradicated most of those around all the buildings and everything. I mean, we still see an occasional one, but not very often like that. We'll still see them up in the woods. And if I see them, I just want to be clear. If I see them in the woods or, you know, someplace out like that, I don't kill them. They're just fine. And anyway, about the snakes, we killed one in one of those early years that was 42 inches long. People had never heard of a copperhead being that long. And we skinned it out. We have the skin somewhere. I don't know if we still have it or not, but I think we still have the skin, and it's 42 inches long. Well, the one that I had back there at the pond was very close to that. He was a monster. He was almost as big around as my wrist. He was huge. And then the one I poured out of the bucket, he was a 3-footer. And even a 3-foot copperhead's almost unheard of. I mean, that's a big copperhead. And trust me, this sucker was every bit of 3 foot. Oh, it scared the tar out of me when I poured that thing out past my hand, you know. I should have looked in the bucket. I just didn't even think about it. Okay, moving on. Let's see. What are your thoughts on zero frets? Well, Robert, I don't like them. I mean, it's because I'm a traditionalist, I guess you'd say, and I just don't like them for that purpose, for that one reason alone. I don't really have a problem with them as far as using them and all that. They set up easy. They're probably the easiest way to set up a guitar, and that's why the factories, especially the cheaper factories or cheaper guitars, use zero frets. You don't typically see a zero fret on a high-end guitar. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm just saying you don't typically see a zero fret on a high-end guitar. And so, to me, I associate them with cheap. And quick and dirty, but that does make them easy to set up. But I'm not a fan of the zero fret just simply because of the cheap aspect, I guess you'd say. So I don't know if that makes sense to you guys or not, but that's my take on it. But they do work fine. James Freestad. My Starlink is on fire today, 103 megabytes down and 11 megabytes up. Yours seems pretty good too. Well, good. I'm glad it's working today. I honestly don't know. I didn't check it today. Didn't have time. Gary Smythe asks, static. I am same as you. Many times my daughter used to get shocked if she kissed me. Great way to punish my wife. Yeah, I'm not lying about the static, man. I'm seriously telling you. I keep a can of this next to my chair in my man cave. I keep a can of this next to my hunting stuff. In this big hunting closet I have. Oh man, it's just terrible. And I tell my wife, I said, put extra dryer sheets in there, those things that knock out the static. Oh my gosh, yeah, it's terrible. It really is. It's so bad, it's not even funny. All right, moving on here. I don't see too many more questions. I may have run out here. We're past our hour time anyway, so maybe we're done. How you fix it? There's one here that's doesn't have any question marks, but it says, "Good morning, Jerry. How do you fix a milky-looking finish on a guitar?" That's a good question. And you know what? I did have a trick for that, but I'm not sure I can remember what it was now. I think mostly a hairdryer. I think it's mostly a hairdryer. You don't get it too hot, but you heat it up and you just, like apply a little heat and back off, apply a little heat, back off, that kind of thing. And I think that might get rid of your milkiness. Try that. I can't remember if that was how I finally ended up fixing it or not, but I did fix one that way. And I think it was with a hairdryer. I'm not saying it's going to work every time on every kind of finish. It really depends on a lot of things. But you're hitting on the reason I never use shellac as my final top coat finish. Shellac turns milky just by looking at it. I mean, so I never use shellac as a top coat. That's why I don't use French polish, because French polish is shellac based. And it turns milky. You put your arm on it and you're sweating. I guarantee you it's going to turn milky. So I don't really care for the shellac-based finishes. They're great for undercoats, and honestly, acoustically, they're probably the best finish you can put on your instrument, acoustically. But, you got more than just acoustics to consider when you're talking about a finish. So, acoustics is important, don't get me wrong, and that's why I say as a base coat, it's fine, but I want to put something over the top of it so it doesn't turn so milky. Let's see here. Is there any more questions that are embedded? I think that's it. Yeah, Rick says he's blown up audio equipment with static. Yeah, I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying it never happened to me. And trust me, if it's going to happen to somebody, it should have happened to me. And I've never had a problem with it. In fact, and this is a black and white fact, you can believe what you want again. I guarantee I have no reason to say these things unless they're true. I became I didn't know nothing about working on PCs when I took that job. I told the guy, I said, if you give me a chance, I promise you I'll be your best tech in no time at all. I said, because I learn quick and I'm interested in things like that and I'm good with my hands. And I said, if you'll take a chance on me, I'll be your best tech you got in your shop. And he looked at me kind of funny, like, yeah, right, who do you think you are? Well, it turned out I feel like I was his best tech, because I was the guy that they always requested when they called the helpline. Is Jerry available? Can you send Jerry? And I was busy all the time. And talking about the static thing. So I would follow these guys saying that, oh, this card's ruined, it got static electricity, or this card's ruined for a different reason. Didn't matter what it was. And I'd pull all their cards out of the trash can and go reuse them on other jobs. That's how, now this was in the old days, you understand, when things weren't as plug and play as they are today. But quite often they just didn't understand the technology and understand what the problem was. And I took to that stuff like a duck to water. And so I was super involved in all that. And like I said, I don't think I ever had one single incident ever where static caused a problem. And I truly never did put one of those goofy wrist things on and ground myself. I never did do that. And I never had a problem. So anyway, that's just the facts. I'm not trying to say that there isn't a problem. I'm just saying I never had a problem. So I guess that's going to be it for today. A little bit more stuff there than you ever cared to hear about. I am so excited about my finds back there and finding that new home place that I can't hardly stand it. I got to get back there and look. So I'm probably just going to take the rest of the day off and just go back there and look because I deserve it. There's another question that just popped up. Have you filled up all 50 holes on that Dremel bit holder yet? Not quite yet, Scott, but thank you very much. It's in use. It's in the drawer here, and the problem is just taking the time to sort everything and put it in there. That's the problem, and I haven't quite done that yet. Anyway, I think that's it for today. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Looks like we have 180 viewers right now. We'll see you probably on Monday. I think I do have a video coming out. Oh, I wanted to tell you about this video. I made a mistake on this instrument, and I thought I'll just tell you before I get all the comments, because there's going to be a million comments on this video that's going to come out tonight. You screwed up. You didn't do whatever. I fixed a peg head on a real old roughly 1912-ish A model guitar, A model mandolin, and the peg head had split. And it was at different levels, and it busted a lot of the inlay. So I was repairing all that stuff, and I used a microscope to repair it. Well, I think I did a pretty good job. But at the end, I thought that H doesn't look quite right. Well, when I looked at the beginning footage, once Emery made the video, and I looked at the beginning footage of this, I noticed there was a loop on that H, and I kind of thought there should have been. But I can tell now that in the footage, if you watch the video, you'll see that part of that loop part has been covered up with some filler. I think if all I had to do is scratch off that filler, and that loop would be complete then. I didn't realize it. It's in the video. Bingo. Sorry. That's all I can tell you. So to the customer, I apologize. But if you took a toothpick and scratch off that finish there, I think you'll find the rest of that loop on the H, where I was trying to repair all that detailed inlay that had busted out. I made a mistake. I'm human. Now go ahead and crucify me when you see the video tonight. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you on Monday, if not sooner.